Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to wait for people to have time to join. While we're waiting, if you want to put where you are watching from in the chat, that would be great. We're so excited to be able to spend some time with you today. Sorry, you're right. Not in the chat. My apologies. In the Q&A. If you want to put where you're joining us from in the Q&A, we'll get to see where in the world we are broadcasting today, where everybody is from. The UK, Turkey, Singapore, London, Zambia, Hungary. Wow, Spain, Switzerland. They're coming in so fast. Kenya, Vietnam. This is amazing. Italy, Nigeria, Sri Lanka. It's so awesome to see the world coming through in our Q&A because we don't get to travel internationally right now. And so it's great to sort of envision where you all are. Rwanda, Pakistan, Indonesia, Kazakhstan, Saudi Arabia. There's a lot of Hungary coming in, which is great. Greece, Lebanon, Cyprus. You all are making me miss getting on a plane and all the wonderful food across the world. So great. We're just going to give it just another minute or two to let people join. Cameroon, more Nigeria, Uganda. So wonderful. Pakistan. Uzbekistan. Wow. All right. Well, thank you for indulging us in letting us know where you're watching from. As I said, it's as close as we get to travel right now. We are so grateful that you are taking the time to be here today. And we hope that this session is going to really be fruitful and interesting, and we're going to enjoy it as much as you do. My name is Ryan Ricciardi. I am an admissions officer at Bowdoin College in Brunswick, Maine. I am going to ask my colleagues to introduce themselves. Maybe we'll just ping pong around. Francis, you are right beneath me, so why don't we start with you? Oh, Francis, you're on mute.
Wouldn't you think after a year and a half I'd get the hang of that? Hi, everyone. I'm Frances Tulea, Associate Dean of Admission at Amherst College in Amherst, Massachusetts.
I'll go next. Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Swan, Coordinator of National Recruitment at Carleton College, located in Northfield, Minnesota. Adam.
Hello, everyone. My name is Adam Sapp. I'm the Director of Admission at Pomona College in Claremont, California. And I'll ping to Lisa.
Hi, all. I'm Lisa. I'm representing Swarthmore College in Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, and I'm the Director of International Recruitment. Dean, I think you're last.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Dean Mendes. I'm Associate Director of Admission here at Williams College, located in Williamstown, Massachusetts.
Great, thanks so much. So our agenda for today is that we're gonna spend a little time talking about why we're all here together. We are going to introduce the institutions that we work for, so you can hear a little bit about that. We're going to go through the application review process and why those different components matter to us. And then we're going to head to breakout rooms. If we have time before we head to those breakout rooms, we'll do a little bit of Q&A, but whatever questions you have, you should definitely put in the Q&A right now. We'll answer them as we go. And again, if we have time at the end before we head to those breakout rooms, we'll try and do some group Q&A, but you should definitely ask questions of us when you go to each of our rooms after the joint session is over. So that's, sorry, I just went over the agenda. The mission of the 6 colleges is that we are all institutions that share a lot of values. We are here because we are campuses that really believe in diversity, equity, and inclusivity. And international students really play a big role in contributing not just to our communities outside of the classrooms, but to how everybody learns about the world around us inside of our classrooms. So we're here because we think you're really important to us, and we love spending time getting to know you, and we want you to spend time getting to know why you matter to us. So to that end, we're going to start with the introductions of our schools, and then we'll dive into the application pieces and why they help us understand who you are and where you are. So we're going to go alphabetically with this school. So Francis, we're going to start with Amherst.
And I am unmuted. Hello, everyone. Again, Frances Talea, Amherst College, Amherst, Massachusetts. So Amherst is located in the western part of the state of Massachusetts, about 150 kilometers directly west of Boston, 200 kilometers north of New York City, in a beautiful part of the country. There's a couple of things I want to point out about Amherst to you. One is that we have an open curriculum, which imposes a minimum of curricular constraints on our students. Secondly, we do have a very diverse student body, including internationals. About 12% of our students are international, and we are need blind for the admission of all students, domestic and international. And finally, we are part of something called the 5 College Consortium. So we are in Western Massachusetts, and within a 20-kilometer circle, there are 4 other schools of higher education that at which you can take classes and participate in activities and events. Thank you. I hope to see you later.
Thanks. Bowdoin, B goes next. So my name is Ryan. Again, I'm here from Bowdoin College in Brunswick, Maine. 3 quick things about Bowdoin. One, we are a campus really focused on the environment and sustainability. So we have the largest bank of solar panels in the state of Maine. Our dining hall is a no waste dining hall. We have competitions between dorms about power usage. It gets ugly. People bring their laundry to other dorms to do. It's a really fun way to think about your footprint on the world around you. That footprint brings me to the second point to make about Bowdoin, which is that we are an institution that was endowed and founded to serve the common good. A lot of people think that the common good means service. And yes, our students do a lot of volunteering, but what it actually means is that we have a mission that everybody who graduates from Bowdoin is going to use their education in whatever field they're passionate about: business, finance, law, medicine, government, whatever it is, technology, to leave the world better than they found it. And that's our commitment to a Bowdoin education and to the common good. And my last point is that we are the polar bears, which has nothing to do with proximity to the Arctic. I have never seen a polar bear on the campus, a live one, but it has everything to do with 2 of our alums who were early Arctic explorers. They thought they were the first men to set foot on the North Pole. We would say now that they were the first white men to set foot on the North Pole. But as part of that expedition, they brought back to Bowdoin a polar bear. And that polar bear for us symbolizes that a Bowdoin education is meant for you to take intellectual risk, to really push yourselves outside of your comfort zone, to expand your horizons, and sometimes literally expand the boundaries of the world around you. So I look forward to the presentation. I look forward to talking with you in the college fair, in the breakout rooms afterwards, and I will pass it on to my colleague, Brian from Carleton.
Thank you, Ryan from Bowdoin. I love that you talk about the polar explorers because, Carleton's in Minnesota, so not that far from the North Pole. Ultimately, I joke about that, but Carleton, we're located in Northfield, Minnesota, so we're a little different than our peers here. We're in the center of the United States, the upper Midwest. And some things that are different about us as a liberal arts institution, we operate on a trimester calendar, right? We break the year into 3 10-week terms. Take 3 classes each trimester. We think this gives students a really great opportunity to explore the curriculum, to really have that liberal arts and interdisciplinary education that we think prepares you very well for so many different paths in life. That trimester calendar also gives you the opportunity to do a lot of different things outside the classroom. And for a student body of ours, about 2,000 students, about 11% international, that really gives you a chance to build community. I think if you ask Carleton students and Carleton graduates, their favorite thing about Carleton, the academics are phenomenal, but it's really the people that they meet at Carleton, the community, the level of learning that kind of permeates how people interact with each other, and the sense of humor, right? Carleton is certainly a place that we take our academics seriously, but we don't take ourselves too seriously. And I think there's a great balance you can strike between having a phenomenally intellectually curious education, but also having fun while you're doing it. And finally, the last thing I always like to mention about Carleton is that research really is part of the experience here. You can't really finish a degree at Carleton without doing a comprehensive research experience or a comps process. And this is something you really research, direct, defend during your senior year that prepares you very well for life after college, whether you're going into the workforce right away, whether you're going to graduate school right away. That research sort of experience isn't just given to you though during your senior year. There's plenty of research opportunities that you'll have well before your senior year. And so if you're looking for a place that has a really tight-knit sense of community, that has a lot of research opportunities, but also just a love of learning, hopefully you can find a home at Carleton. I could say more, but I'm going to pass it on to my colleague at Pomona, Adam.
Thanks, Brian. As I said earlier, my name is Adam. I'm the Director of Admission at Pomona. 3 things to know about Pomona. I think the first has to be that we're in California, so we moved from the Midwest to the western part of the United States. California, we are the land of innovation. We think a lot about who we are. We're young. We're sort of thinking forward. I think as an institution, Pomona is one of the oldest in California, but in the United States, perhaps one of the younger small liberal arts colleges, particularly compared to our peers. And I think so much of that place and the location drives the energy on campus. We're about 35 miles east of Los Angeles. So LAX is sort of our neighborhood airport. Our most popular destination for alumni last year who were getting jobs was the city of San Francisco. So we're a bit far from the city of San Francisco. You can't really drive there, but we are thinking a lot about what it means to combine lots of different disciplines. And so my second point on Pomona is that we care a lot about being interdisciplinary, about thinking about how you take subjects and go deeper and then connect them to other subjects. And we do that in tandem with our peers at the Claremont colleges. You may have heard of the Claremont Consortium. It includes Claremont McKenna College, Scripps College, Harvey Mudd College, and Pitzer College. Together with Pomona, we form the Claremont colleges. The concept is very simple. You live at one school, but you can take classes at all 5. And you are a student at one school, but you can participate in extracurricular activities and eat at the dining halls at all 5 schools. So we are a school of about 1,600 at Pomona, but there's about 6,000 undergraduates at the Claremont colleges. Pomona teaches about 600 courses. There's about 2,500 courses you can take throughout Claremont. So that commitment to really thinking about interdisciplinary learning and liberal arts, it's present at all 5 of the Claremont colleges. And then finally, you'll sense, as my peers will talk about as well, a real commitment to global diversity and access. Our global community is large, it is socioeconomically diverse, it includes students from all different backgrounds from all over the world, and we're really proud about that. We're equally proud about the fact that our faculty are former international students that teach our classes. A few of our administrators are former international students. This is not just a student community, it's an intellectual and academic community, a place where you can grow the mind as well as grow the habits of leadership that are so important to life after college. So I'll end there and I will pass it off to my colleague at Swarthmore.
Thanks, Adam. So we are swinging from the West Coast back to the East Coast to talk about Swarthmore College. We are located about 18 kilometers outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which is the 6th largest city in the US, but that is definitely in US terms, maybe not so much in international terms. So we are very close to a big city, but we are also a suburban campus. Our campus is actually an arboretum, which is just another way to say a living museum, or what I like to say, a tree museum. So everything on our campus, all of the greenery, all the shrubs, everything is labeled. So even though you are no longer in the classroom when you're walking around campus, you are still learning while you are here. So Swarthmore was founded by Quakers, and we are no longer religiously affiliated, but what that means is that we still believe that everyone has an inner light within themselves and no one's light is greater or less than anyone else's. And that is manifested through many different ways. One being that most decisions on campus are made through a committee. So we ask that students, faculty, staff, all of our community members are involved in any major decision-making that we do. And that could be as small as what new chairs the library is gonna buy, up to who the new provost will be or who we will hire as the next president. We also have a pass-fail first semester policy where your first semester, where you're transitioning into college, all your classes are pass or fail because we want you to focus on that transition. And we do not calculate a GPA for students. So all of these things are really part of how we create a community and a collaborative community together, as opposed to a competitive one, because again, we really believe that everyone deserves and everyone should be valued equally. So I'm going to stop there and pass it on to Dean.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you to all my colleagues who have shared about their schools. It looks like we might be having a little bit technical difficulties with some of the screens. So if you can't see me, hopefully you can hear me. I am representing Williams College. Williams is located in the Northeast, so we're moving further east. We are located in a town called Williamstown. It's in the state of Massachusetts, which is in what we call New England. We are in a small, picturesque college town in a valley surrounded by beautiful mountains. We are a 3-hour drive from Boston and a 3-hour drive from New York City. We have 2,100 students from around the globe and around the US. One of the distinctions for us is we offer 10% of our 700 courses are taught tutorial style, so modeled after Oxford University's program, where those classes have 2 students and 1 faculty. And about 50% of our students will take a tutorial at some point. Another point I want to talk about is financial aid. We know that's a really important piece for students around the globe. We have a very generous financial aid policy. We are need aware for international students, but 60% of our international students are on financial aid, and all students on financial aid at Williams, that covers the cost of books and supplies for their classes. Also will cover some costs for healthcare, summer storage, and for travel back and forth to your home country. So that is the end of our college introductions. And I believe I have the next slide as well. So we're going to talk about the application process and the different facets, different variables that are within the application. So to talk about academics, so transcripts, and I know a lot of you worry about, will the school know my transcript? Will they know what kind of curriculum that I have at my school? And so we do a really good job of understanding the context of that curriculum that you have in your country or in the region of your country. We have experienced readers, and we have other means to get information on how to decipher your curriculum, the rating scale, and what it means in terms of what you've taken versus what is offered at your school. And sometimes as a counselor at your school, that can help us with that, but sometimes you don't have a counselor, and an administrator will give us the information, but we will track that information down. So do not worry that we won't be able to understand what your transcripts mean. And we do not, for most of us, we do not convert your grades into a US template as well. So recommendation letters. You probably all know that applications typically 2 teacher recommendations and a recommendation from a counselor or an administrator at your school. And we have data from your transcripts, and if you send test scores, we'll have that data. But we want to get to know you. And that's part of this holistic process that you hear about in the US. So your transcripts are going to tell us about your strengths. What do you like in the classroom? What do you like in the context of your school? What kind of things do you bring to your courses? Maybe what are your weaknesses as well, to give us an overview of who you are and what you represent, written from 2 teachers and an administrator at your school as well. And then you get a chance to write about yourself in the personal statement. That's part of the application. It's a required piece. And we just want to get to know you better. We're going to also evaluate your writing style to see how well you write. We're not looking for a particular type of topic within that essay. And then you'll see many applications will have supplemental essays. Some of them will be mandatory, some of them will be optional. So those are going to be different for each individual school. So I'll pass it on to my colleague for the next slide.
All right, so Dean went over the academics and how recommendation letters can help us with, getting to know you in the classroom, getting to know you on the academic side. But a big part of applications to our colleges is your community. So how are you interacting outside of the classroom? So one of the major ways that you can show what you're doing in your community is through the extracurricular activities list. Now, many people may just hear that and think, oh, I should put the clubs that I'm in, maybe the sports that I do. So more of the organized activities, but the extracurricular activities list could include many other things on top of clubs or sports or other organized things through your school. So that could include a part-time job if you have to work, or maybe taking care of a sibling or taking care of a grandparent or other family member. Basically, what we want to know is what are you doing outside of the classroom? Now, of course, we know that different countries have different policies around that, different cultures view the time outside of the classroom very differently. And so during the application process, we certainly take that context into consideration as we're reviewing your extracurricular activities list. So, we understand if you're in class from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. And so you don't necessarily have the time to do things outside of the classroom. We get that. And that is certainly something that we will take into consideration. But the extracurricular activities list is really a great way for us to understand how you might participate in the communities that we're building. So we in the 6 colleges are all fairly small institutions. And so we really care a lot about who we're bringing onto campus and how they might fit into our greater campus community. And the extracurricular activities list and recommendation letters are really a great way for us to understand how you might fit in here. And understand maybe some of your leadership potential or the things that you've done that kind of show us what you're interested in and what you are hoping to accomplish outside of the classroom. So certainly take a look at that list. And again, do not just put organized activities if it's not the only thing that you do. Feel free to put whatever it is that you do outside of the classroom. And I will move on to the next slide.
Hello again, and I'm going to talk to you about some optional materials in your application: standardized tests, art supplements, and interviews. So all of us this year are test optional for SAT and ACT. Some of us have been doing this for quite some time. I think Bowdoin has been test optional for 50 years. Others of us have come to it more recently in response to COVID restrictions on testing, but are looking at it more broadly as possibly being extended. So for example, Amherst is in the 2nd year of a 3-year pilot program that will be test optional. Other schools may be test optional this year and haven't made a decision for next year. So it's important for you to check the website to see if you're not applying in the current cycle, to see what the policy will be next year for the schools you're interested in. And remember that there may be other tests that are required. For example, for international students, some of us may have requirements for testing for English proficiency. So you want to check on that as well. Important point, test optional is actually test optional. We are not going to be automatically looking more favorably on students who submit testing and unfavorably on students who do not. Unlike many non-US universities that admit students primarily based on an exam or a test score, we all practice holistic review. So we're taking a very multidimensional view of every applicant. We ask you for a lot of information and we look at all of it so that we can get a really comprehensive picture of each applicant. In trying to evaluate academic achievement and academic readiness for our schools, we have always looked beyond SAT and ACT. We have always looked at other indicators of academic accomplishment, such as your transcript, for example. We look closely at transcripts to see that you've taken a challenging course load and that you've done well in it. And we also get some academic insights through your teacher recommendations and your counselor recommendations. So we are looking quite broadly. If you decide to submit testing, we will look at it as one of many factors. If you decide not to submit testing, we'll focus more on those other factors. Art supplements. We offer an opportunity for students who have particular talents or accomplishments in music, dance, theater, visual arts, sometimes creative writing, to submit additional information for consideration as part of the admission process. The art supplements are not, it does not mean that you must major in an art when you get to our schools, or even that you're planning on majoring in one of the fields of art. It just means that this is an area of particular interest for you that you would like to share with us. It's another dimension of the applicant, so it contributes to that multidimensional view. Each school will have information on its website and in its application about the kinds of materials and the way you will submit those materials for consideration. Some of us use something called Slide Room as a platform for submission. Others use internal platforms for submission. So again, check websites to see exactly what is needed. And even though it takes a little bit of extra effort to do an art supplement, if this is an area that you would like to share with us, it's wise to take the time to do it because it can be a little bit of a positive factor in the admission review. At Amherst, it can help you, but it can never hurt you. And I think that's probably true at the other schools as well. So it might be worth the extra effort. And finally, interviews. Some of us offer interviews, some of us do not. It is yet another way to gather some more information about you and for you to gather more information about the institution and how you might fit there. Some of us offer interviews with admission officers, some with trained alumni interviewers, some with current students who have been trained by the admission office for interviews. So again, check the website, see if the schools you're interested in offer interviews. And you can also find out there exactly what you would expect in an interview and how to schedule one.
All right, thank you, Francis. I'm going to talk about financial aid. This is a question. This is a topic that we're getting some questions about in the chat. I'm sorry, in the Q&A. So please feel free to drop more questions in the Q&A. We are eager to hear what you are interested in and to address that in the Q&A section when we're done with this section of the presentation. But I want to spend a few minutes talking about financial aid because it's important to us enrolling the class we want. And international students are an important part of that class. You are an important part of who we want on campus. And we use financial aid in order to ensure that we are enrolling the best and brightest students from around the world. We have two different policies, and I want to talk about need aware versus need blind. Amherst is need blind in admissions for international students. That means they do not look at finances when they are reading applications. The rest of the institutions here are need aware. And I just want to talk about that for a minute because need aware and need blind are admissions policies, but they're in no way related to a signal of a value or a lack of value for international students. We all value international students significantly, which is why we are recruiting together today. But the difference is that for the need aware schools, there is a specific budget that we all have that we have to meet. and we admit to that budget as need-aware institutions. So rather than focus too much on being need-aware or need-blind, I think it's important to know the definitions, but let's not let that drive too much of the decision-making, because the interest in having international students is equal among us all. What's really important, and that's true of all of us, is that we all meet the full demonstrated need of international students. And so if we are going to make a choice to admit a student, regardless of whether they need a full financial aid package, which could be a significant amount of money, or they need a smaller amount, but maybe their family can pay something, but they can't pay the entire cost of the education. So they need a little less, but they still need some support. We are going to meet 100% of the need of both families if we choose to admit a student. And that's really important because particularly for international students in the United States, that is not as common of a policy. Many institutions do not meet 100% of need for international students, and the 6 of us do. So that's something that you should definitely be aware of. All of us have relatively large financial aid budgets. So I know I heard a couple of my colleagues talk about the percent of students on financial aid. It ranges from the mid 40% to the 60 or 70% range for international students. We all have relatively large numbers of our international student populations on financial aid. This is also quite different when compared to most US institutions. At many institutions, there are no need-based dollars available for international students. At some institutions, they might have some merit-based awards, but they have no need-based dollars available for international students. And then there's other places that have a smaller percentage of international students on aid, but they might have packaging that's a little bit more familiar to you based on what we have, comparatively speaking. So that high percentage of international students on aid, that's another point of distinction that I think is really important. There are 3 kinds of financial aid. There's grants and scholarship dollars, which we sometimes use those words interchangeably, but they sort of mean the same thing. And that is that we would give you a grant or scholarship dollar, institutional scholarship dollars, that does not have to be repaid. So a grant is essentially financing that one of our institutions would give your family because you need it, and you do not have to repay that. It is gifted to you in order for you to enable you to enroll so that you can afford our institutions. All of us also may have some form of student work on campus. Given that you're international students, you're probably going to be on a certain visa. Most of the time it's called an F1 visa. And there are some requirements with your enrollment to stay current with the US government. And part of that may require you to do some work or some practical training, they call it. And that might include your time on our campus doing student work and a job on campus, either research job, maybe a job in the admissions office, maybe it's a job in the library, but there'll be some perhaps work component that would be built into your financial aid. And then a few of us do offer small loans for international students. Others do not package loans. They replace loans with grants. But that is something just to be aware of. And I think one of the things that we're all trying to do is make sure that this is affordable for you and your families. And so the policies are designed around affordability to make sure that you can, sustain the cost of 4 years of education in the US at one of our institutions. And the need is met in order for us to be as generous as we can be to support you and your families who are working so hard to make this work to come to the US for this education. I would leave you just with a few tips. And one of those tips is, if you feel in talking to your parents or your family that you're going to need financial aid, please apply for it at the time you apply for your application or you submit your application. That financial aid deadlines and application deadlines are somewhat parallel. So you kind of have to do both processes at around about the same time. So just know that that is going to be a little extra work, but it's worth it as you fill out those forms. The second tip is we don't have quotas. So none of us are in our admissions offices saying we can only have one student from Singapore or 2 students from Nigeria or 4 students from Turkey. That's not how we work. We want the best and brightest students from around the world. When we admit students, we fund them. And when we fund them, we meet their full need to make it affordable. That is a value and a commitment that we all have. And then finally, to address a few of the questions around financial aid that I read earlier, all of us offer fee waivers for international students. And so if our application fee is going to be an issue, please reach out to us, and we have various ways. Some of us have forms online, some of us have emails, some of us have codes we can provide you. We never want an application fee to be a barrier to you. So please reach out and we will make it so that we can support you as you submit your application if we have to waive the fee. So with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague and we'll continue on with our presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. And so my goal in the short time that we have left is to kind of give you a sense of how we make these decisions, right? If you've applied, and hopefully this presentation makes you excited to apply to our institutions, but how do we really go through this process, right, of making decisions? And I think it's really important to highlight that we're all colleges that practice what's known as holistic review, or sometimes you can view it as whole person review, meaning that we're looking at those different pieces of the application that we've been talking about, the academic pieces. So looking at your academic record and the opportunity that you've had in the context of your school or your country, right? Looking at those community pieces, right? The activities you've been involved in, or the initiatives you've been involved in, or the responsibilities you have at home. We're taking all those into consideration along with those optional materials because we're trying to get a sense of who you are, not just what you've done in the classroom, but also what you've been doing outside the classroom, because we are all campuses that are very residential, right? We're interested in having people come be parts of our communities, not just students in our classes. And so when we read your application, I think it's really important to know that we don't go through this process with a checklist in mind, or a formula that we put in the data that you have on your application into some sort of algorithm, right? We really read your application, and we do that in a process where we really are looking at your essay. We really are looking at the letters of recommendation space shared with us from your teachers. And I think it's important to understand that, yeah, this process is not formulaic. I know that sometimes it's confusing, that there's not a straightforward formula. But I think the whole idea of holistic review is to not have it be just numbers driven, because you're so much more than what you've done on a 3-hour test or a set of really stressful exams. We were interested in having people at our campuses, right? Not just predicted results. And so when we read your application, know that we're reading and paying close attention to all these different pieces. But the process itself then, after an application gets reviewed, there's a committee process, right? And so it's never just one person making a yes or no decision, right? We all have the opportunity to have other colleagues in our offices that help us with the reading and with this decision-making process. And so we're able to take in different people's perspectives as we review your application. And so I know there's a question earlier that asked, what do we look for, or what do we look for in applicants? And honestly, what we really hope to get a sense from your application is just who you are and the passions you have and how you may come to our campuses and be engaged and explore. And at the result of that review process and that committee process, we have to make some really tough decisions, but we really do our best to take you and look at you in the context of the school you're coming from, as well as the educational opportunities that have been afforded to you. This process can feel confusing, it can feel stressful, but that's part of the reason why we're doing this sort of webinar, right? We want to answer your questions. We want to help you understand that as scary as this process can seem, we're here to answer questions, and we're here to kind of help you understand that this isn't a formula or a mechanical process, right? We really do read your applications, and we really do want to get to know you in this process. I could say more, but I know we're running out of time. I'm going to pass it on to Ryan.
Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate how all of you talk about the humanity behind the application process and the why behind the what. We would not do this work if we weren't driven by supporting people in this process. So everything about applying to college for us really comes down to the human being who's taking so much time to put a little piece of themselves in front of us for us to get to know you a little bit better. We have been recording this session. You will be able to find the recording, not immediately, but several days from now on sixcolleges.org, SIXCOLLEGES.org. So 6 spelled out. And you'll be able to come back, sort of re-listen to what everybody had to say about the application process, because I know we can move through information really quickly. So you'll be able to revisit it on that website. I want to thank all of you for putting such thoughtful questions into the Q&A today. We have done our best to answer them as they have come in and as we've been speaking. We're going to move. I've put our contact information up on the screen, so hopefully you've taken a screenshot of that. We are real people working in this process too, so we'd love to hear from you about what you need to know more about to help support you in your application. But another way that you can do that is to head to our sort of college fair portion of the presentation today. So for the college fair portion, there is a website, sixcolleges.org/breakout. I will put a link to that in the chat for everybody as well. And there you can go to talk to us one-on-one to really get your questions answered, to hear more about each of our individual institutions. Give us a few minutes to get there because clearly we're here right now. But before we break up to do our individual college fair portion, we just all want to say thank you so much for taking the time to be here. We know that you are busy, that the world has been online for so long, and you're taking the time to get to know us a little bit better, to spend your time with us, to learn a little bit more about the process and about each of these 6 schools and the values that we all share. So thank you for your time. We look forward to talking with you soon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you in the college fair.